Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Joining me in the background is our beautiful synagogue, the Spanish and Portuguese. Hopefully, Be'ezrat Hashem, we could all be united and see each other in person at our synagogue, at the sanctuary, where we could start back with services and Kriyat Torah. I miss you guys very much. I would like to at least share with you the parasha, summary of the parasha, and of the Haftarah. So this week's parasha, we read Parashat Shemini. So just to go back, give some background. In last week's parasha, we spoke about the 7 days that Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron inaugurated the Mishkan, the sanctuary. In this parasha, we learn about the following day, in other words, after the 7 days, which is what Shemini means, Parashat Shemini meaning the 8th day. This is the day where Aaron and his sons officially begin their jobs as Kohanim. It's interesting to point out that Moshe Rabbeinu himself is known to be a prophet, but for some of us that don't know or don't remember, Moshe Rabbeinu also had a status of a Kohen or even a Kohen Gadol for the first 7 days. The 7 days where he was showing Aaron and his sons how to conduct and how to bring sacrifices in the sanctuary itself. So Moshe himself had the status of a Kohen for at least 7 days. So on the 8th day officially begins the job of Aaron and his sons, the priests, serving in the Mishkan. First they prepare their sacrifice, and then all the Jews come to the entranceway of the Mishkan to watch them bring the sacrifice on the altar. Then Moshe and Aaron bless the people, and everyone sees a fire come down from the heaven and consumes the sacrifice. This is, by the way, one of the miracles that our sages teach us in the Talmud that was in the Mishkan and later on in the Bet HaMikdash itself when the Jews entered the land of Israel, where there was a fire that would come from the heaven and consume the sacrifice that was brought. And there's a beautiful lesson that we can learn from that also, because our sages ask, if there was a fire coming from heaven and consumed everything, why did the Kohanim had to light the fire from below? But this is a beautiful lesson in the Mishkan that we see that although God could have a fire come down from heaven and consume what is down below, a human effort is always required, is always needed. We have to put in that effort, even though everything comes from above and the fire comes down and consume, we have to put our little 2 cents, our little effort that came. And therefore, the connection between heaven and earth by a small action from below that would bring this fire from above. Now, once the fire came down from above, the people are so overwhelmed and overjoyed by this amazing sight that everyone begins to praise and sing to God. But then, unfortunately, a tragedy happens. In the middle of the celebration and excitement, something terrible happens. 2 of Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, light a fire to bring a sacrifice that they are not supposed to bring. And as a punishment, they die, unfortunately and tragically. You can imagine how sad this tragedy makes Aaron, that loses both of his sons. But he does not say a thing. He accepts God's judgments. He remains quiet and accepts God's judgment. Moses tells Aaron and his remaining sons, Elazar and Itamar, continue doing the service in the Mishkan. And they do. while the rest of the people of Israel mourned the death of Nadav and Avihu. The great sage Or Chaim, Rabbi Chaim ben Atar, known as the Or Chaim, says that Nadav and Avihu were so great and such great saints, great sages, that they've wanted to get closer and cleave, their soul desired to cleave to God, and they became too close. And unfortunately, that's how the accident happened and their soul expired. Next, we learn about the law that God tells Aaron whenever they will bring serving in the Mishkan, Aaron and his sons, the Kohanim, are not allowed to drink wine and become drunk. This is also another interesting halacha that, as we know even today, that the Kohanim that come out to bless the people when they do Birkat Kohanim are not allowed to be drunk or to drink to the point that they can articulate properly the blessings. Now the parasha continues with the kosher laws. God tells Moshe to tell them about the animals and to all the Jewish people which one are considered kosher by the different signs. Kosher animals, those are permissible, have two signs. They chew their cud and have a split hooves. Kosher fish must have fins and scales. We are giving a list of the non-kosher birds and a list of 4 types of locusts which are kosher. The Torah tells us that all other insects are not kosher. We also learn about the idea of purity, which is like a spiritual type of cleanliness. If something becomes impure by touching something impure, for example, a corpse, a dead body, or a non-kosher animal, then it must be immersed in a special body of water called a mikveh. The mikveh has a special power to restore purity to things like vessels and dishes and people that have become impure. We'll continue with a summary of the Haftarah, which is also, as we know, it is the custom for many generations now, from the time of the Talmud, that at the conclusion of the Torah, as you well know, we read the Haftarah. The Haftarah and somewhat has sometimes a very revealed connection to the parasha, and sometimes a more latent and concealed connection to the Haftarah itself. And this week's Haftarah, we read from Samuel, yes, from the prophet Samuel, the story about King David and the Ark, which seems to have a direct connection with the parasha itself. And we mention how Uzzah was struck dead when he disrespectfully touched the Ark of the covenant, reminiscent of Nadav and Avihu that we just read, their death that was described in this week's Torah portion. The Holy Ark, says the Haftarah, has been stored in the house of Avinadav for many years, right after the destruction of the Mishkan Shiloh, the tabernacle of Shiloh. When the Jews came into Israel, they built a Mishkan, a sanctuary that was in the area that was called Shiloh. After the destruction, David took the ark and placed it in the house of Avinadav for many years. Recently crowned, King David decided to move the ark to the new capital, as we all know, Jerusalem. He had the ark placed on a cart and it was transported amidst singing and dancing. When the procession reached Goren Nachon, the oxen misstepped, and Uzzah, Avinadav's sons, took hold of the ark to steady it, whereupon he was instantly killed. David, at this sight, was completely devastated, and he temporarily placed the ark in the home of Oved Edom, the Edomite, where it remained for 3 months. And then it was told to King David, saying, God has blessed the house of Oved Edom and all the belongings to him because the ark of God. David went to bring out the ark of God from the house of Oved Edom in the city of David with joy. The ark was brought up to the city of David with great singing and dancing. David then blessed, distributed presents to the whole assembled Israelites. I hope you enjoyed the summary of the Parashat Shmini, and the Haftarah from Samuel. God bless you and have a beautiful Shabbat.